They found the missing hiker's last radio ping at 2:11, an open carrier wave, breathing static, and a half-formed word that sounded like someone trying to speak through a mouthful of sand. No follow-up, no location confirmation, just silence. By dawn, Chief Ranger Elena Mora had assembled a 10-person search team at the Painted Desert Visitor Center. The sun wasn't over the horizon yet, but heat already shimmered on the parking lot. Team: Rangers, Mora, lead, Ortega, Kim, and Rookie Pike. Local guide, May Russell, longtime desert tracker. Geology tech, Lydia Crane. Medic, Sloan Park, SAR handler. Cal Halevi and his cattle dog, Rook. Community volunteers, Tessa Gray and Mason Flood. 7 people missing now. 3 hikers, then Ranger Patel and Guide Arroyo who went searching for them. This group made 8, 9, 10. 10 was supposed to feel like security. It didn't. Mora reviewed their water load, checked radio bands, and traced their entry route on the laminated map. We move east through Crystal Forest, drop into Raven's Tongue Wash, and sweep basin to basin. No solo scouting. We count water every hour. If you feel dizzy or your hands go numb, you say it. Nobody muscles through anything out here. Rook's collar bell chimed once, clear and delicate. He stood tense, not excited, just watchful. They hiked through the early light. Petrified logs glowed in pastel bands, rose, honey, deep iron red, scattered across the desert like the ribs of something the earth swallowed and partially returned. The place was beautiful the way abandoned churches are beautiful. Too still, too silent, too aware of being watched. Rookie Pike tried not to stare at the logs that leaned at strange angles as if frozen mid-fall. Some pointed together in ways that seemed intentional, directional, like sundials for something that did not use the sun. Crane noticed it too. "These orientations aren't natural," she murmured. "Sediment deposition doesn't produce alignment patterns like this." May didn't look at the wood. "Don't say that word," she said. "What word?" Pike asked. "Pattern." They reached Raven's Tongue Wash mid-morning. The wash walls were soft clay and silt carved like a throat. Rook slowed, lifting his nose, tail stiff. He led them to a patch of pale fragments scattered in a depression. Pike crouched. "Bone?" Crane shook her head. "No, silicified wood, but..." She touched one gently. "These striations, they look like skin crease patterns." "A thumb?" Pike asked. He wished he hadn't. The air changed. Not colder, just attentive. Mora didn't let anyone linger. "We keep moving." They followed Rook deeper. The wash bent sharply, and there the hiker's sign emerged, footprints overlapping in confusion, a dropped bandana, a cracked water bottle with one bead of liquid still clinging at the rim as if refusing to evaporate. Beside it, a radio earpiece fused into the sand as if melted and poured. Kim frowned. "Desert doesn't melt plastic." "It does if lightning hits it," Ortega offered, without conviction. The petrified logs ahead formed an archway, 2 massive trunks leaning together, crystal cores exposed like polished bone. Beyond the arch, the wash opened into a broad basin littered with shards. Rook backed up 3 steps, ears flat. The bell on his collar barely trembled. May exhaled. "Don't like that." Mora counted the group. 10, still 10. "We sweep the basin perimeter. No one goes center. No direct touching any exposed wood. Pike, you stay eyes on water levels." They entered. The basin floor felt subtly wrong underfoot, not soft, not slick, just arranged. Shards lay in a gentle spiral, not random distribution. Mora saw it and her jaw tightened. She didn't point it out. Not yet. In the center of the basin lay a day pack, faded blue, one strap torn. A piece of notebook paper was taped to the outside flap with medical-grade skin tape. Mora peeled it free. The handwriting was shaky, letters dragged as if the hand had resisted the arm. Do not stop moving. No signature, no explanation, just the warning. Pike swallowed. We should radio that in. Mora lifted her radio. Static answered, no voice. Then a single click in every headset at the same instant, like something acknowledging them. Rook gave a small, low, terrified whine. The desert, until that moment merely silent, now felt awake. Mora's voice stayed level. Water check, 200 milliliters, salt. We continue. They drank. The water tasted faintly metallic, like it had learned something on the way out of the canteen. They continued deeper, and Pike felt, it was the first time but not the last, that his shadow didn't quite follow him. It lagged, just a fraction, as though the light needed time to decide whether he still belonged here. The sun cleared the mesa edge and the heat came fast, no buildup, no mercy. The basin's colors washed pale and hard like chalk baked onto metal. Rook refused the lead position now. He stayed close to Cal, shoulders stiff, tail down, nose low to the dust as if listening there instead of smelling. Mora shifted the group east, skirting the basin curve where the petrified logs rose like the ribs of a massive animal. Crane paused to examine one, bands of agate folding into each other, red into honey into violet smoke. Beautiful, if beauty didn't feel like a threat. These lines shouldn't be this sharp, Crane murmured. This is the kind of crystallization you get under pressure. But there are no compression layers here. It's like the wood froze while still soft. Pike took a half step back. Soft wood doesn't fossilize, not unless something is accelerating the exchange. Crane didn't elaborate. May didn't look at the wood. We keep moving. They tracked the hiker's footprints along the wash edge, lighter now, more staggered. Someone had dragged a boot. Someone else had knelt. Ortega crouched near a patch of scuffed sand. Here. Someone sat down, hands pressed here. Maybe someone was dizzy, dehydration. Sloane touched the depression with the back of her hand. This sand is cooler than the rest, as if shade used to be here. She looked up, nothing castable for shade in any direction. Pike shifted his pack. Sweat glittered at his hairline. The glitter didn't drip, it held, like condensation on glass. Water check, Mora said. They drank, small sips. The water tasted faintly mineral, but it always did out here. They continued. The wash narrowed, curving between low shale shelves. The petrified logs followed, but now their placements grew stranger. Some standing upright, though their bases were cleanly severed. Others balanced on tips that should never have supported their weight. A few pointed, not vaguely, not suggestively, but aligned, dozens of them, toward a single direction deeper into the maze. Wind did not do that, Pike said, voice thin. No, May agreed. It didn't. A radio earpiece appeared half fused to a slab of stone, Arroyo's model. Ortega picked it up. The cord beneath it had turned glassy, still coiled mid-twist. Sloane murmured, whatever did this, it was fast. They found boot prints again, fresh ones this time. Ranger Patel's tread pattern. But each print had a thin, glossy shell along its rim, like frost hardened into enamel. He walked through something, Mora said. Keep going. The wash opened into a second, smaller basin, this one crowded with overturned logs and fractured stumps, and in the middle, a dark streak cut across the ground like a lightning scar, narrow as a finger and deep as a fault line. Crane knelt over it. This is silica flow. This is silica flow, she whispered. But it's behaving like water. She dripped 2 beads from her canteen into the dark streak. The droplets didn't soak. They rolled, joined, and crawled upward along the fissure like mercury drawn to a magnet. May stepped back. "No, no, no, we leave this place." Before Mora could respond, Pike swayed. He blinked, tried to lift his hand, and his finger pad caught the light wrong, a faint iridescence like mica dust on his skin. Sloane was already at his side. "Hands, let me see, don't touch your face." Pike held them out. The pads of 2 fingers had stiffened, smooth, too smooth, like polished bead glaze. "I leaned on that stump back there," Pike said. His voice was steady, but his eyes weren't. "It felt cool." Sloane rubbed his fingertips with gauze. A few tiny flakes came away like glass snow. "It's superficial," she said, trying to believe it. "You keep your gloves on from here forward." No bare contact. Anyone touches anything petrified, they say so out loud. "Say it immediately," Mora added. The radio crackled, just static. Then a voice pressed through. "Don't. Stay still. 27. The transmission bent and stretched as if the words were passing through syrup. The voice could have been Patel's, or Arroyo's, or someone they hadn't found yet. Crane stared at the fissure. 27 what? Rook's head snapped toward the far ridge. A low, hollow boom rolled through the basin. Not thunder, not rockfall. Something deep, like pressure shifting. The petrified logs, dozens of them, tilted. Only a few degrees, but all at once. No wind, no tremor underfoot, just a silent adjustment. A forest remembering a shape. Cal closed both hands on Rook's harness. Mora didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "We're moving." North slope. Now. The team withdrew in tight formation, Pike at center, Rook leading but unwilling. The desert heat felt heavier now, like something leaning in close to listen. As they reached the ridge, shadows lengthened behind them, but the sun had not moved enough to justify it. Pike looked back once. His shadow didn't match his steps. It hesitated, then followed. The north slope led them out of the basin and onto a broken shelf of pale blue clay. The sky overhead looked normal, hot, cloudless, but sound carried strangely. Footfalls arrived twice, once when they stepped and again a half-beat behind, like an echo traveling through stone instead of air. Rook stopped near a scatter of gear half buried where the clay dipped. The trekking pole lay snapped in two, but the break edges looked melted, not sheared. A canteen lay on its side, metal distorted and half embedded in a thin sheet of translucent stone. Sloane brushed away grit with a glove. Name engraving, Campbell, one of the hikers. May spotted something else, a shape crouched near a low overhang. She raised a hand. Everyone stilled. It was a person. Or it had been. The hiker knelt, facing the slope. One hand braced on the ground, the other hung loosely, fingers extended. The skin had turned glassy, not opaque stone, more like agate, rings of color running under the surface. A silk bandana still fluttered at the neck, the cloth soft, though the neck beneath it was unyielding. Pike took a step, but Sloane blocked him silently. "Look at her eyes," Lydia whispered. The eyes still had depth, still had color. The eyelids had frozen mid-blink, lashes caught in filigree crystal. The mouth was parted slightly as if about to say a word. Tessa folded both hands against her chest. She didn't fall. She didn't collapse. She just stopped. Mora circled the figure, careful not to touch. She was alive when this started. No one argued that. A few meters farther on, they found a second hiker. He had tried to crawl, stone spreading from the fingertips inward. His trailing knee was still flesh. His face was turned toward where the ridge dropped into a shadowed ravine. Sloane checked what she could. Pulse is gone. Respiration 0. But tissue rigidity is... She stopped. There was no medical language for this. May swept the ground near the ravine edge. Tracks here. Fresh, one person, boot tread, Patel's. Heading down, Rook barked sharply once. They descended into the ravine, narrow, shade-worn like a throat carved through shale. The temperature dropped. Pike thought at first it was relief until he realized he could see his breath. In Arizona heat. Crane held up her hand. Moisture condensed on her ring and hardened instantly into a tiny gem flake around the metal. The humidity is carrying silica. It's nucleating on contact. That shouldn't be possible. A choked cough sounded ahead. Human. They found Ranger Patel slumped against the ravine wall, one leg extended and turning pale where stones spread along the shin. His clothes were stiff with dust. His lips were cracked. His eyes fluttered as they approached, as if he was fighting to stay in this moment. Sloane dropped to her knees, already pulling water. "No," Patel rasped. The words scraped like sandpaper. "Don't drink here." Sloane froze. Mora leaned close. "Patel, look at me. What happened?" Patel tried to wet his lips, but even that motion came slow, as if air itself resisted movement. "Waves. Every 27 minutes. His eyes caught Mora's. "If you stop, even to think, it catches you." Sloane glanced at her watch. "How long since the last one?" Patel's gaze flicked upward. "Soon." Rook whined, low, trembling. He backed up 2 steps, ears flat, then pressed himself behind Cal's leg. And then Pike felt it. A subtle thickening of air, a slowing, like every grain of dust was waiting for permission to fall. Mora recognized the shift instantly. "Everyone, move." "Now." Small gestures, don't lock joints, keep talking. May began counting out loud, steady, rhythmic. 1, 2, 3. Keep moving your hands. Crane tapped her fingers against her thigh. Ortega rolled his shoulders. Pike flexed his toes. Sloane maintained constant contact with Patel's arm, keeping it shifting even by millimeters. The world thickened. Shadows froze. Sound flattened. The petrified logs on the ravine ledge tilted a degree or two, like leaves orienting toward unseen light. Pike's boot heel stuck for a second, just a heartbeat, but it stuck. May grabbed his pack strap and yanked hard. Pike gasped, leg free again, but a patch of grit on his boot toe glittered with the same iridescent sheen that had taken his fingertips. The pressure eased. Air loosened. A whisper of wind passed. The wave had moved through. Patel slumped against the wall, chest rising in shallow, ragged pulls. The field is alive, not thinking, just repeating, like tide. Mora looked at his leg. The stone advancement had slowed but not reversed. Sloane swallowed. "We can stabilize him, but we have to move. Now, before the next wave." Patel's fingers twitched, slow and fragile. Arroyo went ahead, tried to outrun it. Don't know if she... His breath caught. His hand stopped moving. His chest stilled. For a moment, no one spoke. Rook gave a soft keening sound, grief, not fear. Mora rose. "We carry him until we can't." No one questioned. Above them on the ravine edge, a petrified log shifted again, not falling, just adjusting, aligning, as if the desert were watching them leave. They climbed out of the ravine slowly, half carrying, half guiding Patel's body. The desert light had changed, flatter now, drained of depth. Shadows stretched long and thin, as if uncertain where to belong. Mora kept the group moving north, aiming for higher ground where they could reorient and break for the road in the morning. Rook refused the lead. He stuck to Cal's heel, tail tucked, ears flicking at sounds no one else heard. The basin behind them hummed faintly, not like machinery, not like wind, something between. Lydia didn't speak the analogy forming in her head. The hum of mineral growth accelerated. They reached a low ridge where the clay gave way to rock shelves. Mora called a halt. "Camp here. No fires. No stillness. We rotate rest. Nobody sleeps through a wave." May nodded. "This place is old. We don't give it more invitation than it already took." They set Patel down gently, covering him with a field blanket. Sloan closed his eyes. Pike stared a long moment, jaw clenched. No one said anything about burial. Not here. Not now. Not in this ground. Rook paced, whining quietly. His collar bell chimed in uneven beats. Sloan checked Pike's fingertips again. The mica-like sheen had not advanced, but it hadn't undone either. She wrapped his hands in fabric strips, not as treatment, just as reminder not to touch anything. Water rations came next, 200 milliliters each. It tasted metallic again, like dust learning how to dissolve. As dusk fell, the petrified logs surrounding the ridge seemed to stand taller. Not move, just be more than they had been. Then the wave came. No warning sound, just suddenly the air thickened and the world's tempo faltered. Rook froze mid-step. The bell on his collar stopped vibrating mid-sway. Mora's voice cut through low and sharp. "Don't stop moving." Tap, breathe, talk. May counted. Lydia whispered the alphabet. Ortega tapped his thumb to each finger in a rotation like prayer. Pike rolled his wrists in tiny, constant circles. The wave passed. Air loosened. Shadows resumed motion. Rook snapped back into awareness and bolted, not startled, not chasing prey, running from something. "Rook!" Cal sprinted after him, instinct overriding instruction. Mora lunged and caught Cal by the pack strap. "No, no, you go after him, you don't come back." Cal struggled once, then stopped, shoulders shaking. He whispered into the dark, "He's trained to return. He will find a path. He will." But no one believed it. Silence followed. Not just lack of sound, but suppression, as if noise itself had been turned into stone. They forced themselves to continue tasks, movement, chatter, anything to resist stillness. And then, from somewhere beyond the ridge, the bell chimed once. Clear. Delicate. Far too far away to be attached to a living dog. Tessa's breath hitched. Mason stepped backward, and the ground answered him. His boot sank into a patch of pale grit and stayed. His leg halted mid-motion. The petrification was subtle, creeping, like frost forming on a window. Mason's voice rose, cracking. "Help! Help! Don't let it!" Sloan and Ortega grabbed him beneath the arms, pulling. The grit around his foot crystallized, flowing upward in tiny branching structures. "Move him! Move him! Don't let it set!" Sloan snapped. May shoved a flat stone under his heel, breaking contact. His foot came free, but his boot toe had hardened to a glassy curve. Mason stared at it, and at his own shaking hands. "I can't do this. I can't. We can't stop," Mora said. Her voice didn't raise. It didn't need to. Stopping is how it takes you. Night deepened. The basin below glimmered faintly, like starlight reflected on black water, except there was no water. The petrified log's surfaces caught moonlight and returned it in impossible angles, like mirrors that remembered previous shapes. They tried to sleep in shifts. Nobody truly slept. Every 27 minutes the field pulsed. Each wave lasted longer, sound warped more, and shadows now sometimes led instead of followed. At 3:14 a.m., Pike woke to May whispering, "Do not look toward the basin." Pike opened his eyes. Across the basin floor, figures stood. Not people, not trees. Shapes caught mid-step, mid-turn, mid-reaching. Stilled, reflecting moonlight like polished bone. And Rook stood among them, or the shape of him. Head turned toward the ridge, as if waiting for them to join. Mora rose slowly. "We leave now. We move until sunrise. We do not stop," nobody argued. They shouldered packs, tightened straps, and began the descent toward escape, while behind them, the desert rearranged itself, slow and patient. They descended the ridge in darkness, with no firelight, no moon to guide them, only motion and breath and the small sounds they made on purpose to stay alive. May counted under her breath. Lydia whispered field notes to herself. Ortega murmured the names of the missing, like stitching a thread through the group so none would slip loose. Pike focused on his hands, still wrapped, still moving. Mason walked stiffly, fearful of his own feet. Sloane stayed close beside him. Cal brought up the rear, looking back too often, as if expecting Rook to return in some form that would still make sense. The desert floor sloped toward open badlands. Somewhere beyond the horizon lay the highway. Water, radio, noise, life that didn't need to remember how to move. The pulse rolled through, a faint tightening, a shift in the pressure behind their eyes. The desert listened. "Keep moving," Mora said. "Small motions. Keep your hands awake." They didn't stop, not fully, but the wave still took something. A sound formed across the basin, like stone cracking, like bone adjusting. The petrified figures in the basin turned. Not far, just enough. Heads angled toward the ridge, toward the 10 who had become 8, who had become 7. Then, the wave passed. Mason stumbled. His boot rang softly on the ground like tapping glass. He looked down and saw the glaze spreading from the hardened toe. No, I'm still here." He tried to lift his foot, but it didn't lift. Panic made him go still. Sloane reached for him. Mora caught her wrist. "If you try to break him free now," Mora said quietly, "you join him." Sloane trembled. Tears welled, and she forced herself to blink them down so they did not fall and crystallize. Mason met her eyes. He nodded once. "Keep going," he said. It was the bravest thing any of them had said in days. They left him, not by choice, by rules older than them. The desert did not take Mason all at once. It waited. It hardened him from the ground up, beautiful and terrible, like something being carved by patient hands. The night stretched onward. The group became 6. The terrain changed. Bentonite flats, then low, rippling mounds. The petrified logs were behind them now, no more stone ribs, no more crystalline stumps. But the field remained. Sound still lagged. Shadows still hesitated. Sloane staggered once, and Pike steadied her. His fingers, still wrapped, brushed her sleeve. He kept moving. So did she. They crested a shallow rise, and below them the painted desert spread in vast gray-blue sheets. And at the far edge, faint, unreal in the pre-dawn dim, a road. Not close, but real. Cal exhaled, shoulders shaking. "We can make that." "We will," Mora said. The final wave came as they crossed a flat of pale dust, hard, sudden, merciless. The air locked. May shouted, "Keep moving!" Small motions, small. Sloane's knee locked. Lydia shoved her forward. Pike's breath froze in his chest. Ortega slapped his back until the breath came out ragged and he lurched onward. Cal's stride faltered. He whispered Rook's name. His foot anchored. Stone climbed. He didn't scream. He just looked at Mora, quietly, steady. "Go," he said. Mora didn't argue. The desert held Cal Halevi the way it held the trees. Not cruelly, just permanently. 5 became 4, then 3 as dawn bled into the world and the field weakened, as if daylight's uglier honesty offended it. They reached the road at sunrise. Asphalt, heat-holding, ugly, blessed road. A ranger truck rolled into view minutes later, drawn by scheduled check-in failure, not rescue. The survivors, Mora, Pike, Lydia, Sloane, looked like they had been carved out of the desert. White dust coated their clothes. Their movements were small, controlled, constant. The medic who tried to examine Pike told him to hold still. Pike didn't. He shook his head and kept his fingers moving. "Don't stop," he whispered. The government closed off Raven's Tongue Wash as unstable terrain. New signage went up. "Do not enter. No backcountry permitting in this zone." Lydia wrote a report stripped of everything that mattered. Mora signed it. Sloane stopped drinking from glasses, only bottles with caps. Pike still sleeps with his fingers moving, even in dreams, and sometimes, in the cold hour before dawn, Mora drives the highway along the park's edge. She watches the basin in her rearview mirror. Some nights, she sees Rook standing at the basin's rim. Perfect stillness. Head turned toward the road. Watching. Waiting. She keeps her hands moving on the steering wheel. She does not stop. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video. It helps more people find the channel. Drop a comment telling me what part stuck with you the most, or if you'd like to hear more stories set in real national parks. And if you haven't already, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next tale around the fire. New horrors every week. Campfire Horror Stories, where we don't stop moving.